Our second movement's like 5.5 minutes long. It's like the whole meat of the show. So much stuff in here. My name is Trent Gronewold. I am the front ensemble arranger and co-sound designer for the Mandarins. And today we're going to be going through our key sound design moments for our 2025 production called If I Must Fall. So hopping into part 2 here, this is our part 2 percussion feature. This is probably our longest movement. I think this movement sits at around 5.5 minutes. This is a massive, massive file, so I'm gonna dissect what I can here, but a lot of the cool stuff is in these opening sounds. So our 4-note motif is basically existent throughout the entire show, but if it's presented the same way every time, it can get a little bit old and a little bit deafening on the ear. So we're trying to find ways to basically constantly have this motif evolve. And I found this cool library of vocal colors that we use for this moment. It has a little bit of like super subtle rhythm to it. And so this is at the end of our second big hit in the show, and it transitions down into introduction of our next theme. Cool, there's a lot of stuff in here. So the first thing starts with this transition sample. Super simple, is basically essentially an ambient trance that can take us from the end of the hit into our main moment. Cool, nothing too fancy, but what's cool is this vocal colors library and contact. So this has like a super subtle rhythm laying underneath it. So that's cool. That's not super loud. In real life, you can't even really tell it's there, but it's cool just to help fill some of that space in between this do-do-do-dum, do-no-no-no, do-no-no-no, which takes us back to our Stranger Things bass that we have in the very beginning. So this is that same Serum mod wheel me patch. And there's so much space, which is great, because this is all about the quads here. So we're just trying to allow room for John to be able to do whatever he wants to do with some of this stuff. But if there's too much space, it can get a little bit awkward. So these vocal stutters add a little bit of that layer in there. And then we brought back one of our basically motif 2 in the show from some of our source material that keeps everything moving from a melodic standpoint, so it's not just vibe and bass line. So this little vocal breakdown here is using that same vocal colors library, but now playing the motif instead of this background ambient pad. And that motif, da da do da da do da, is all over the place in the show. So it's kind of cool to present that for the first time outside of a horn instrument or a keyboard. This melodic moment on top of the vocal stutter and our bass line gives us kind of a cool, fresh feel leading into the sound design or into this drum feature that isn't as predictable, which is cool. Quads add in. Now these are cool. So this is super simple. These are just these ha sounds, and I threw this in here because I'm like, oh, it'd be cool if I know we have 4 stacks and we could put one ha on each of the speakers and kind of create this cool thing that visually the core can latch onto, which is always a fun thing to try to bake into some of the writing, is like providing moments where when the visual designers hear the MP3, they go, oh, I could see something happening here. This little 4-count window, I thought John was going to fill in. And he didn't, and he left it open. He's like, it needs to be something cool. And so we got these cool ha sound effects that are relatively straightforward, but the panning of them throughout our 4 stacks on the field, as well as a nice reverb tail, kind of allows this to not only be a visually coordinated moment, but also just providing a little bit more depth and sonic variety to what we're offering. So it's not just a lot of block sustains or this cool synth patch. It's something completely different that is still thematic and fits with the visual. On here, it's panned just left, right, but in real life, each one of these ha's is getting sent to stack 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the field to kind of create this cool little domino effect between these vocals. So that's super simple, but in context, this little baby phrase here to set up the quads is super cool. We have some sampled verb tails. I probably snagged this from Splice if I had to guess. So a lot of the sound design has so much, there's a lot of tail. Everything has a lot of tail in here. Because the sounds are so short, we're trying to have this dichotomy of short bass line, long ambient tail to kind of marry these two ideas so it's not one or the other. It can't just be all washy, but it also needs to have some groove. So we have these stacks, we have a snare drum, we have Zilbel. We can do these things that can create an acoustic backbeat, but having this sampled snare hit here kind of allows the whole thing to live within the same sonic soundscape that we just set up at the beginning of this moment. So once the quads get to their second half here, and we kind of bring in this cool bass line using that same mod wheel me patch, little backbeats. Super straightforward. Ha, ha, ha. And then we have a little bit of a breakdown here. So two different basses. I think this is the mod wheel me patch from the beginning. Our second layer, a little bit of sausage fattener, of course, is our mod sync patch. This stuff is all through Serum. So on its own, these two bass patches bring a little bit more of that low end depth of sustain that we hadn't had up to this point. This bass line, on top of our continued sample backbeat, makes this whole phrase have a little bit of a different feel leading into this next section. So this is the quad entrance, going all the way through the snares with all these ingredients here. And then we bring the ha's back one more time. This is kind of a cool one. I don't even know what this is, but it's dope. I called them grunge samples, but it's just this like nasty, distorted, 8-bit-esque drum break that I chopped up to kind of add one more level of intrigue here. So I didn't just continue the do-do-do-dum, da-da-da-dum. That part's cool, but by the time you do it for the third time, there has to be kind of this development to keep this harmonically interesting. And this is also when the drum corps comes in. So snare feature, drum corps adds in with these cool matrix chords, the bass line's continuing, and then we have these cool grunge samples to kind of add on top that just keeps developing this voice here. Ooh, and this leads us to my second favorite thing in the show, the Shreddage guitar. This library, so sick. It's super versatile and we use it quite a lot. The Shreddage 3.5 Hydra library. We weren't able to get a guitar player for the show this year, but this electric guitar sound felt like it just fit perfect within this like Blade Runner-esque Stranger Things electronic world that we've created for ourselves. Without getting too 80s about it. This guitar, we use quite a bit throughout this phrase, and this is the first time we ever hear it. Stanky. There's a lot of dissonance in this part, but when the marimbas add into this guitar lick and the bass line continues and the horns are playing, the snare drums have this cool modulation going from dotted eighths that set up the new 200 BPM, and it's like this whole thing is just filled with so much cool sonic variety that gets me pretty excited. So this is from the snare entrance leading all the way up to our 200 BPM section in our drum break. Things just get chaotic here. So we have two main sounds here that we're kind of continuing to build off of. We have our bass, dun-dun-dun-dun-dum, cha, dum dum, and layering that with the shreddage guitar kind of helps mend those two voices that we've brought into this phrase so that they can live in harmony a little bit smoother. That creates this cool, fully produced sound here for the battery. And on top of that, we have these half notes here with that same cello trumpet library from the very, very beginning. So we're trying to keep these voices consistent. So we're not just hopping around making arbitrary decisions, but trying to be mindful of the ingredients that we've introduced and trying to make that thematically appropriate. Use some Ian Grom guitar licks here with that shreddage library. It sounds awesome. In context, this whole 200 section with the full percussion ensemble sounds something like this. Brought back the vocal sounds. This retard onto that sets up this next brass feature. This whole percussion feature is juiced with lots of cool sounds, lots of fun tempo, as well as meter variety throughout.